Caroline Guerin, I'll second that.
Okay, Russell makes the motion, Caroline seconds, and are there any objections to accepting the meeting minutes as approved? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Can you all hear okay? Yes. Okay, great. So, let's proceed with the reports, I believe.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel, agenda item D. Did you not have any? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, we gotta
Where's
do
my-
public comments.
Sorry for the agenda. Oh. I'm sorry, I'm a little disorganized. We have one thing, okay.
And Mary Winston, TDLR, Mr. Lauderstein, we have had a request from the audience to speak up. We can hear you, but,
Oh.
yeah, just a little bit.
I'll be happy to. Okay. So we have just one public comment form received, and this is from Pamela Ferguson. I'd like to call you up to make whatever statement you want to at this time. Uh-huh.
Thank you, Chairman Lauderstein and board, legal advisors, and everybody gathered. As always, I wear two hats. I'm an LMT and also the Texas representative for the American Organization for Bodywork Therapies of Asia, national organization. And I'm joined here by my colleagues in Traeger and also reflexology, which is very important because we're always very keen to be part of the discussion, at the same time having our respective professions recognized as something separate from massage therapy. But in fact, most of us are LMTs as well. So it's good that we can speak, from both fields, as it were. I think we're all very supportive of all the efforts to block human trafficking and the misuse of any forms of terminology from any of our respective professions. And on that note, I think I've given it before, we had meetings with the Texas APD Vice Squad, and I do have briefing notes here and a checklist so that people in law enforcement can tell the difference between a sham and shoddy operation and one that is genuine with professional therapists. I do have several copies here if anybody would like one, and I do recommend that what we did here, in fact, became national through our organization, through the various state reps. My concern here is that none of us really, I think, mind being fingerprinted and photographed. I think it's an excellent idea, like others in the health profession. I think it's an excellent idea. But at the same time, I'd feel a lot more confident if I knew that, the Vice Squad and also the inspectors from the TDLR have kind of stepped up efforts to do raids and to be more vigilant of operations that are sham operations as well. It's not enough just to beef up our fingerprinting and photographs. There really needs to be a concerted kind of horizontal effort in this. And of course, it can't just be in Austin, it has to be statewide. So, and another thing that I'm very concerned about is the ease with which some of these sham operations can get business licenses. And I'd be very curious to know if there is going to be a sort of a tightening of requirements city by city, for people to get business licenses. So some of these operations can't, in fact, get off the ground. So as I say, the whole issue of human trafficking is so huge that we can't just be navel gazers. We've really got to work, in a very horizontal and very integrated way. So I'm very curious to hear feedback from everybody on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you very much. Did I
Thank
fill
you.
my 3 minutes?
You did great.
Perfect.
All right. That ends the public comment period. I only had requests from one person. So we can proceed now to staff reports. And we'll proceed in that order. Shall we hear first from the licensing division? Hello.
Good afternoon, Chairman Lauderstein and board members. I am Chloe Whalen, licensing manager for the massage instructors and establishments and therapists. You have your statistic reports before you. What I do want to update you on is the new law requirement by House Bill 1865 that now requires fingerprints for new and renewals of those license types. That will start September 1st. We will send out fingerprint information next week regarding that. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
About fingerprints?
Now, it
Oh, no,
depends
I
on
don't
what
wanna ask
part
you,
you
but-
want to know about.
I do have one, Russell Rust, I have one question.
Sure.
The issue that I was talking to you about on the website that was a little confusing about the upload documents to get a license. Has there been any adjustment to that?
Not yet, no, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
thank you.
All right, any other questions so far? Any more to say?
No, sir.
All right, well,
Well, just be patient, and we'll be glad to help you with the process,
all
sir.
right, good. Well, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Am I allowed to add one more thought?
Oh,
no,
hold
but
on. So,
you
yeah.
can think one more thought. There's nothing against that.
Isn't he a wonderful Mary Winston? Isn't he a wonderful presiding officer? That was so
Oh.
sweet.
Well, thank you, thank you. Thoughts are free. Okay, so let's hear from the customer service division at this point. Did we have the statistics? Were those read to people?
We do have those statistics. Mary Winston again, TDLR.
Okay,
Our customer service department is, I always say, just a major foundation for the agency because they're the point of first contact for just the general public, those who don't know who we are or who we serve. And it's an ever-evolving and changing team led by some fantastic people. I was talking to someone earlier who is now in our education and examination department and division, and she said, oh, I came through customer service, then licensing, then E&E. And I'm like, wow, you've really just traveled that TDLR circuit. That's fantastic. So what we have for the report today is the contacts. We kind of keep up with those numbers to know who's contacting us and for what. And if you ever have time, board members, to take a look, because now they are at North Campus, to go upstairs and take a look at the boards and how they operate. Sorry, customer service, but I know you're ready for anything. You'll be amazed at how the numbers work and how the boards read. It's just awesome. So the statistics that I have are from the beginning of the fiscal year through May. And as you can see, the emails are in the orange color and the calls are blue. And it's kind of been somewhat consistent. I think we've reduced a few hundred. In May, the last statistics that I have here, our emails are down to a little over 900 a month. And our calls have reduced down to 1675. So it looks like we're still having more calls than emails, but we also have our website. So hopefully it's answering a whole lot for the licensees and the public. And if there are any questions, I can forward them to customer service, and I will get a response for you.
all right, thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody attending and just for the general public that the reports are online on the TDLR website. So should you want to look at any of these reports, they are available on the TDLR website under the massage therapy heading. So thank you.
Oh, Mr. Lauderstein, thank
Yes.
you, Lee. Mary Winston again. I did not have this set, I don't know why, but thank you. Someone else in the department did. For June and July, it looks like we are decreasing again. It actually looks pretty good. So we're down to July of this year to just a little over 800 calls and a little over 1,200, emails 800 and calls 1,200. So it looks like we see that as our information that we're putting out there is reaching the masses, and so you don't have to call or email us. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, what do we do next?
The Education Examination Division.
Okay, so let's have the Education and Examination Division report. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chairman and board members. My name is Lorraine Srove, and I am with the Education and Examination Division, and I have your report to give this afternoon. In your report, you have the statistics regarding the continuing education providers, the massage schools, the jurisprudence examination numbers, and the number of licensees that have been audited. These are provided by month and quarter. And then I also have a few updates to share with you regarding House Bill 1865 and 2747. Our bill implementation team has been created, and we have members of every division represented. We will be getting, as Chloe had said earlier, many updates added to the website, so we really do encourage you to sign up for those email updates. That way you will be informed every time we update something. For example, we have FAQs that have recently been added, and as we progress through the year, we will be updating those as well as each of those pieces become required. For example, the fingerprinting, and then the new information that's required for the schools, and also the human trafficking poster. When all of those things are added, those will be, listservs will go out to let you know that we've made recent updates. In that, we are currently working on that human trafficking poster. We do have the fingerprinting ready to go for September 1st. And then we have started to develop an outreach team so that we can examine and evaluate and make sure that we are aware of all the stakeholders that could possibly be affected by some of these changes, so that we can get that information out to you in an adequate amount of time as well. Now, as you go through those statistics and the update, if you have questions specific, I can answer those for you. If not, that concludes my report for you today.
Are there any questions? No.
All right,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. The Enforcement Division Staff Report.
Chairman, Commissioners, Chris Funderburg with the Enforcement Division. I'll be presenting the staff report today. This is probably going to be my shortest presentation ever, and probably my worst, though I understand that is a crowded field. That's due, I hate to blame shift, but it's your fault. This board's diligent efforts to regulate this industry and assist in the department with the regulation of this profession caused it to meet frequently. Enforcement thrives on cases. Less time between meetings means less cases mean less data means less for me to talk about, which may actually accrue to your benefit overall. So there is one thing of note that I'd like to point out: the enforcement, the penalty matrix, which was approved at your last meeting and which has been approved by the commission at theirs, is now public and available on our website. It serves as a guidepost for the public in our enforcement efforts, and it also serves as a guidance for prosecutors as we attempt to determine what penalties to assess in each individual case. Now, with that, I'll move on to statistics. Again, less time between meetings means less data for statistics. From what little is available, there aren't any anomalies that require you to take action from what we've been able to ascertain. Finally, our case, the case highlights, you know the litany by now. Enforcement doesn't exist to punish. We exist to we'd rather bring a unlicensed individual into licensure, or bring a licensed individual who has violated the laws and rules into compliance. Our primary goal is to police the health and safety, is to ensure the health and safety of Texas citizens, and that requires us frequently to, and that dovetails into our second overarching objective with this program, the policing of unlicensed activity. And I believe that these cases represent, and the resolution represent a decent illustration of the enforcement's efforts in this area. Though I want to, rather than go over these cases, there's a point I wanted to bring up from one of our last meetings. I mentioned then that frequently we encounter massage establishments that are unlicensed, that we seek a penalty against, and they just pay it. They say they pay our settlement penalty outright. We never hear from them. We just get the check. And initially, we thought this was a good thing, that this indicates indicates an intent on the licensee class to comply. Lately, we have changed our minds and think it more indicative of a criminal organization paying costs of doing business, essentially. So we've changed our settlement agreements. This was spearheaded by Rebecca Burkholder, one of our massage prosecutors. Our settlement agreement now, if they're unlicensed massage establishment, they either have to pay the full penalty and give us proof that they're no longer in business, or they pay a reduced penalty and show us their license. This also dovetails into our efforts with law enforcement organizations across the state to use the civil remedies that are available to us, the Deceptive Trade Practices Act and nuisance abatement primarily, to find another inroad to do something about these criminal organizations, which unfortunately we lack the police powers to regulate. But that's all I have. Do you have any? And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Russell Rust?
Yeah.
On that note, you're not a policing agency, so any violations or fees or penalties that you access have no criminal ramifications to those in the criminal record of that particular person. So what's happening is, and I understand that you're doing everything that you're allowed to, but what happens once you give them the penalty and they move on, 6 months later, they obtain another license, because when you do a criminal background check, since you are not a police force, there is no criminal actions against them. Therefore, they are issued another license. Not your fault or not, but has anything been talked about once a case like this is solved, is maybe turning it over to the district attorneys or the county attorneys or something to let them know that these are, you know, I know they can't use your investigation for anything. Is there anything that y'all turn over to the actual police force to let them know that this activity, that you have fined these individuals for this particular violation, which if they were to go in there and also find the same violation, they could add them to, it could become a Class B misdemeanor, Class C misdemeanor, depending on the severity of it. Then once they get that penalty on there, then when they went back to apply for a license, again, 6 months later, now it shows up as a criminal conviction. Therefore, they're denied the license. So I know that was a lot of rambling there.
No, that totally makes sense, connecting the two, forms of remedial action in a way that allows us to prevent licensure at a later date. I know that we have a joint enterprise with, I believe, the Harris County District Attorney's Office to provide that kind of information to them. But a lot of our activities right now are in the middle of cases because unlicensed massage establishments, finding the owner is our biggest problem. And but the police the law enforcement organizations have better access to records than we do.
Chris,
So, yeah, oh,
Mary
sorry, go ahead.
Winston Taylor. Sorry to interrupt
Well.
you. Mr. Russ, you just want to steal all our fire, and you won't let the new fiscal year just turn around for us so we can announce some new things. It's okay. You're always ahead of the curve.
Ah,
It's a good thing. Chris is an enforcement, and we have field inspections, and we were, and this, I'm still in the thunder of my chairman here, who is I'm going to introduce him since I've interrupted everybody. Chairman Rick Figueroa is our chair of our commission. And we notify them of all the meetings that are happening, and he just wanted to be here for this one because there are a lot of subtle nuances and not so subtle nuances that unfortunately your profession has been, saddled with, shall we say. We do have some more teeth that we can use and partnerships that are coming forth. And we will talk more about that later. And we will be coordinating with Chris, and Rebecca's heading up there. And I don't want to stop here because we do have some rules to get to, but duly noted, sir, and we will be moving forward with that. We'll give you more information as soon as we can.
thank you. Paul Stone has a
Sir,
question.
yes.
Yeah, Paul Stone. I just want to bring kudos as a citizen and as a massage school owner and educator that you guys, your criminal history background, tracked a conviction 5 years ago in another state.
Yeah.
And that you were able to deny this person permanent licensure as a massage therapist, and that's good work. Thank you.
No, our two criminal attorneys and their staff are excellent, and they really do their due diligence in pursuing these. Now, I've seen convictions 8 years ago in Massachusetts show up as sufficient convictions for denial of licensure. So yeah, no, they're on point.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Anything more?
Oh no, unless y'all have further questions, that's it for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yes. So let's have the Field Inspections Division report. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tanya Guthrow, the Director of Field Inspections. In our report, we have listed first the most common violations found during inspections, and this is during the inspection of establishments. Most of these, you may notice, are related to administrative type violations, keeping the proper documentation and paperwork. I do want to point out, though, item number 6, which is related to sanitation, washing towels. Item number 8, which is related to unlicensed activity being allowed in a licensed establishment. The next item we have is recent accomplishments. And the Field Inspections Division, the Enforcement Division, is also working with our Regulatory Program Management Division to work with the Office of the Attorney General to identify how to properly report signs of human trafficking and making sure that we're doing that sufficiently, and if appropriately, when we might want to pass on that part of the report to the Office of the Attorney General. On May 22nd, a representative from the Office of the Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General John Ramsey, went with our liaison, Juan Muniz, and the Strategic Response Coordinator, Jennifer Harless, to do on-site inspections and actually walk through how to collect that information and properly document it when it's needed. Our next item is personnel updates. We want to say congratulations to our new North Region Manager, Ron Gerke. And he was promoted to that position on June the 17th, and we were able to hire 4 new inspectors over the summer. We had Tom Singleton and Donna Johnson in Houston, and Twee Kepner and Sandy Luker in the DFW area. And that really, the next item is our statistics. And you'll see the number of inspections that we've completed through July for the massage establishments and the massage schools. Do you guys have any questions?
Russell Russ, one question. Has there been a checklist for schools devised yet, or is that still in the works?
There is a reference guide that the inspectors are using. I do think that as we move past this September 1st date, and with some of the upcoming changes, that we're going to need to review that again, and most likely with an advisory board work group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
Tony Gracia, Houston, Texas.
Yes.
Do y'all report your clues to the Vice Division in Harris County, Houston?
Well, I don't think anything would come directly from the Field Inspections Division. If we find violations and things like that, we write reports and send it to our Enforcement Division, and they may be working in conjunction with different law enforcement agencies. But that's something we can certainly discuss and make sure I'm giving you the correct information. I don't want to speak for enforcement.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The Regulatory Program Management Staff Report, RPM.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Jerry Gonzalez, and I'm here to give the Regulatory Program Management Report. Since our last meeting, Yvonne Campos and I attended a Central Texas Domestic Minor Sex Trafficking Roundtable in Killeen back in June of 17th of this year regarding human trafficking. Marinela LaFleur and I are also been appointed or been members of the bill implementation team. As Lorraine mentioned earlier, we're involved, and we've got a member of every portion of our division within the implementation teams to make sure we cover all aspects of the bill implementations. Speaking of the bills and changes, the June 2019 edition of the TDR Health Monitor has an overview of the statutory changes from this last session. You can go to the TDR website and click under license type and go to massage and scroll down a little bit, and there's changes, all the legislative changes, and within that there's a section specifically for massage, and it'll break down the timeframes when certain portions of the bills are become effective. And also, recently we were recognized on the Federation of State Massage Therapy Massage Boards. Our licensing division encountered a couple of applicants that submitted fraudulent examination score reports. And we were able to pick those out and talk to the Federation, and they were able to deny those applications. So we were recognized in their last newsletter as well for that. So licensing, big kudos out to them for catching those. And as always, our RPM staff continue to assist with the enforcement, field inspections, licensing, customer service with any questions that arise during inspections, investigations, and just addressing general daily inquiries regarding the massage program. And so that concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Any questions?
Tony
Oh,
Gracia,
yes,
sir.
Houston. Do y'all work with the State Department or HSI trying to identify some of these individuals that are applying with possible fraudulent IDs, identification?
It really depends on what comes in, what type of documentation we receive. Depending on what we encounter, then we reach out to the agencies that may be affected or that we are affected by receiving, the particular documents, be it a transcript from another state or working with other states, seeing that they turned in any type of documentation or actually recognized training programs or anything that we need to be made aware of and do some more digging or investigating on.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Now, we're going to go through, you all going to give us some orientation toward the massage therapy draft proposed rules.
Well, presiding officer, before we do that, we are
Uh-huh.
going to do, if it's okay with you, the executive report, which will be short and sweet because the meat of it is definitely the rules. I did begin by introducing our chair of our commission, but I didn't give him a chance to talk. He holds the big gavel. So now, I'm gonna, without any further ado, Chairman Rick Figueroa.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you thank you for what you do. I appreciate the efforts and to see you guys lean into it. You guys are the guardian of your vocation, and that's an effort that should be commended, but it sometimes go unnoticed, but not among our board. And we appreciate what you do. We appreciate the effort is going to be immense. The war we're fighting is going to be immense. It's a war on human trafficking. It's a war on your vocation as itself, and we realize the resources that are going to be needed and the coordination efforts between law enforcement, state government, this advisory board, our board, it's going to have to take a very tactical, surgical approach. And whatever I can do to be a part of that, I'm going to lean into you guys to aid me and equip me in that. And I would immensely appreciate each feedback you give me. And Mary has my contact information, would be great. But let me make no mistake. It's a war we can and will win. But it's going to be a war. And your vocation is just not at stake, but humanity in itself is at stake. And our state needs to address this issue that's going to be in front of us. And so I really think you guys are the tip of the spear for us. And sometimes it gets tough, and I want you guys to know that we're here to support you. The resources are going to be coming down the pike, but resources alone don't solve the problem. It's got to be coordinated effort. It's got to be intel. It's got to be applied at the right places at the right time. And so there's no greater knowledge base that you can provide to us as to how that looks. So I know enforcement's well-versed in it. I know the team that's behind you is well-versed in it, but I want you guys to know that at my level and our commissioner level, and on behalf of the governor, I know that I'm going to lean into this significantly, especially this next 12 months. So I can't tell you thank you so much for what you do. The good news is your pay got doubled, so that's the great news. And so good luck with that. That and $5 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But again, your time and effort, energy is immense. Believe me, your pay and my pay both got doubled. So I don't know what that means, but thank you guys. Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt your meeting, but I wanted to let you know we're here, and anytime you need me for any reason, you have me. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And,
Russell Russ, could I ask you one question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My members of the association I'm involved with and other massage therapists, I just can't get across to them how important it is for them to file a complaint against a facility that is either unlicensed, unethical, whatever it may be, because you guys' arms are only so long. And they're really hesitant to file a complaint against someone that is unlicensed. And I don't know for myself how much more to convince them that this is going to be a tool that you guys can use. And I don't know, I'm not asking you to put out there, hey, file complaints on people, but understand we know where these places are, or we know in our neighborhoods, let's say that. And I just can't get it across to the member or to the massage therapist profession that filing a complaint on someone that is unlicensed is one of the greatest tools that we can give to you guys to let you know where they stand, so or where they're located. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, so I don't want to continue praising that or pushing that, but I just want to know from yourself, is that a tool that is effective to help you guys?
There's no way law enforcement can be everywhere. And so you're absolutely right. Intel, grassroots type intel like that is pivotal for us. And our arms are only so long. You alluded to it, the criminal conviction part of it is outside. We can on a licensing part, we can do it. So it is going to have to be a coordinated effort. I think when enforcement shares intel with law enforcement and how you guys share intel, rules adjustments, this evolutionary process. I mean, each one of our vocations that we underwrite or look over has a whole evolution with apps and everything. I mean, there's just a lot to look at. But I can't tell you, it never changes the therapists that are out in the field tell us what the DNA looks like. And I think to elevate it to the word, and I chose that word very specifically, war. We're at a war. This is a battle for your vocation. And I think the undercurrent is behavior gets rewarded, right? And a certain behavior who doesn't get rewarded won't be repeated or reprimanded. And so we have to change a little the mindset that, well, maybe they're not going to do anything, maybe it doesn't do any good. But it's a PR war. It's a grassroots war. It's an enforcement war. It's a paradigm war that we have to address. And you're absolutely right. I cannot, as we talked about these cases, when we see these cases, you do see, until somebody says something, it's just going to be the norm. Mm-hmm. And the norm quickly becomes accepted. And we are guardians that we cannot allow that to happen, because it won't take long for that to happen. And so we don't draw a line in the sand. And the resources have been just allocated to us with more enforcement, and I'll let Mary talk about that. I think our watch is the pivotal watch, right? Ours is the bellwether. If we miss this in the next 10 years, I think it can go either way. And we can either reclaim it and really put a different cultural mindset in this vocation, or it acquiesces to something deeper and darker. And I will fight with you on that. I mean, I can't put any plain in that, but and that's why I'm here. I mean, there's many vocations, but I understand the implications of this one specifically.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And just to mention to anybody, including people watching the video, it is our responsibility, it's being underscored by what Mr. Russ said, to let people know, to report on the people who are the bad actors, and also to reward and support those people who are doing good. Yes. And there are far more people doing good than bad, but the bad has to go. Yes. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Lauderstein, I also wanted to add, the bad gets more publicity, right?
Sure does.
That squeaky wheel, not a great squeak, but it's heard and it's seen more often. But this is a pervasive problem, and we know, and the governor's office knows, and the legislature knows, and we are all teaming together. The police departments know. And I'm not going to give a full update on our 86th legislative session that just ended, but because you have rules to get to. But I will tell you that the legislature did allot funds to TDLR to create a human trafficking division. And great funds. If I were still a cheerleader, I'd get up there and do something. Not going to do that today. But in the back, we have Jennifer Harless, who has been human trafficking 100% TDLR. She's been it. And she's done a fantastic job. And I have been brought in, and I've witnessed her working with local police departments, traveling all over, getting the knowledge, getting out the information, and frankly, saving lives. I mean, literally, this is the real deal. So as we develop this and as we grow it very thoughtfully, and Mr. Russ, I was like, you were ahead of the curve, because it's coming, but the budget switches over September 1, and we will be able to actually get those funds to get the staff, get the resources, the things we need. And we've been planning in the background what we need to do, talking to everyone. The governor has his committee. We have the attorney general. We have all the police departments, so many of them, who know the problem, and we are working with them. So we're not just limited to, we took a license. And just like Chris said, if it were another profession and they paid an order, we'd say, oh, okay. But enforcement has seen that, that still doesn't mean that things were right there or okay there. So we're getting there. And we will be talking to you and the advisory board member team, our human trafficking coordinator. We do want to give a presentation. We want to lay out everything once we get all the pieces in place for you. So we're very excited about that. We know it's a really difficult thing that we're going to have to do, but we're super excited to take it on, and we're learning more every day. And for the police departments throughout the state, we appreciate them. Even nationally, we're getting trained on how this is looking, because it's not just a Texas thing. People come from different places to this great state of Texas. And so we're connecting nexus and seeing how these things are playing out. We have our, he's going to die back there, our new intern who is working for free. He gets the same salary that you do. Mr. Brian Cottle, this will be one of his assignments to get this connectivity between the states and the different areas. So we have a lot going on, but we don't want to give you information that's half-cocked. We want to get it together and give it to you correct. So thank you for your concern. I know you have it. And if you or anyone needs us to come and speak to their associations to make them understand just how much we care and will be there, typically that's RPM, but it can be our human trafficking coordinator, or just give us a call, give us an email, and we'll coordinate, we'll get that done. Not to take up too much more of your time, we do have our statistics about contact. This will end like on a really dud of a note, but this is just telling us how many people reach out to your website. And we have, I'm just going to give you, for the previous 6 months, we've had almost 170,000 page views, about almost 1,000 a day. So there's interest in your profession, and I'm sure other people who are seeking information out. And that's probably what has caused that decrease in the emails and phone calls. So that'll be it for the executive report.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. I believe time for the massage therapy draft proposed rules. Is that correct?
I think, Mary Winston again, do we have an update from the education examination work group? Or is that going to be a part of,
Yeah.
are we going to move straight on to the rules?
Do we have an update?
Yes,
That's
no,
me.
maybe? Going once, going twice?
If you want to just tell them we met today, and just the work group, and
Okay.
Not
I'm
at this
sorry.
time?
The update is we had a meeting today. And it was an extremely productive meeting. And thank you. That is my report.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes. Okay. And thanks, Paul Stone. He's my advisor here.
Wingman.
Okay. So moving to the discussion of the possible rule changes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Board members. Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel for the Massage Therapy Program. We're going to go over Agenda Item G today, which is discussion and possible recommendations on some proposed new rules. I would like to take a second. The rules are, the reason for them is the 86 legislative changes from House Bill 1865 and House Bill 2747. I'm going to go over them really quickly because when we go through the rules, I'm going to give you the bill number about which is why we're making the change so that you'll know where that change is coming from. So House Bill 1865, I should know this, I believe it's Representative Landgraf, but I could be wrong. It's not in your materials, I'm just talking at you, I'm sorry, but your rules are in your materials. So this bill made a few changes to enforcement, removing a 5-year sit-out period, implements fingerprinting for licensees, requires us to conduct that criminal background check, implements a student permit, and requires reporting from schools to the department. There is also House Bill 2747 by Representative Ortega. Again, I hope that's correct. If I'm wrong, I apologize. That bill added that a massage establishment cannot allow residing on the premises of a massage establishment with some exceptions. It provides that a massage therapist is required to attach a photo to the front of their license and has some posting requirements for human traffic information. So when we go through, I'm going to say House Bill 2747 or House Bill 1865 as the reason for why the rule is present. Additionally, there is some cleanup language that I believe the any work group has been diligently working since December of last year. I know they've met a couple times. We got a report on it last time in June, and then I know you guys met and worked again today. You'll see those work group changes as well. I will note them as a work group change. The advisory board members who are a part of that work group are more than welcome to speak up and explain why the work group went through one way or the other of that change. One of the things you'll notice, and I will say cleanup, is the moving to actually saying massage school in a lot of it. You know, the rules currently say massage therapy education program when it's referring to the school. So we're just making that as just a terminology change, and I'm just going to say cleanup change on the term, and I'm going to keep going unless you need to discuss it. And then the other thing, which has completely slipped my mind about what I was going to say, I can't remember. But that's okay. If I think of it, we'll go with it.
Sounds good.
I'll go page by page. I'll give you the section number that we are on, and then we'll go to the rule change, and then I'll provide you reasoning. So the first one, and feel free to stop me. That's the other thing. You will also see the change that you discussed back in December of 2018, almost a full year ago, regarding draping and testimonials. And we'll get to that, and you'll see the language. It's the language that the advisory board finally approved. Unfortunately, it never got published. Legislative session happened. Reviews got delayed, and then it was May before it was finalized with the fiscals and everything. And so at that point, we as a team made the decision that we can go ahead and add it into this rule packet and just do one as opposed to having multiple run. So I'm going to start with section 117.2, definitions. Because of House Bill 1865, specifically section 4, creating the student permit, we need to define what a student permit is. And there you have your definition in front of you. Questions or concerns? I'm going to keep moving. Next is the change to the actual title of subchapter C. We are adding student permit there because the student permit allows you to get your massage therapy license. So now the subchapter will be licensed massage therapist and student permit. It's just a title changed. Next change will be to .20. The first biggest change you'll see is to A7. This is the addition for the House Bill 1865, specifically sections 2 and 3 regarding fingerprinting. So now it will say in accordance with the Act. And then the other information about criminal conviction guidelines, that's something that is already happening. And Chapter 51 and 53, those things already happened. This is just adding belts and suspenders to the rules. Mr. Stone, you with me?
No, I was just,
Okay.
I was
Making sure.
helping David.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
go ahead, thank you.
We're going to go to under .20, E, F, and G. Those are all verbatim from statute as well, House Bill 1865. That lays out who is required and what's required for your fingerprinting. Next is .21. This is just something that we have been cleaning up. There's a difference in law, and we have kind of used the terms interchangeably, but they're not. There's a difference between substantial equivalence and reciprocity. Reciprocity requires an actual executed agreement between two states to agree that our licensees will get a license there and your licensees will get a license here. We don't have any of those executed for this program. We use substantial equivalence, and we need to correct the term because people get confused about that. And so this is just a correction in the terminology. It's definitely just a cleanup. It's not legislative, it's not work group, it's something that just needs to happen to ensure that we're using the correct terms. Next changes in .23. Adding letter D per House Bill 2747, Section 2 about the photograph on the license. You'll see a new subsection .25. That's your student permit requirements per House Bill 1865, Section 4, which creates the student permit. Next change is .31. This is a work group cleanup. We're removing this is for CE providers and CE courses. It's removing advanced coursework, adding associations, and the courses that are approved, that are done by an approved massage school. Questions or concerns?
Russell Russ comment.
Sure.
C?
C.
We didn't change anything there. I thought we had discussed that subject matter where it says it's not massage therapy techniques or manipulation of soft tissue, that the highlighter there as well would be the theory of a technique. That's how the online classes are getting passed. It not being a hands-on, they're saying the theory of chair massage, the theory of sports massage. When a person takes a CE class, they feel like they're getting training in that technique.
Your advisory, your work group, that, again, this is beyond me. The work group has discussed this. How does the work group feel about it? Is this a change you guys want to see?
Okay.
I thought we did.
I thought we voted on it already.
Do you remember what the change?
No, ma'am, but it was a year ago.
I don't have any.
Sorry.
That's okay. I slept twice.
Could we look into
I
it?
think I was asleep the whole time. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, for the record, Charles Johnson, Assistant General Counsel. If there was a edit that was made in a prior meeting, it should be in the minutes, and so we should be able to go back to those
I think
minutes
they're-
and see what
I think they're
those
talking
changes
about
are.
when they did it in work group.
Did
It's
it
not
in
showing
work
from
group?
work
We did it in a work
group
group.
to
Oh,
here.
I'm
In
sorry.
the education examination work group, we did that, sir.
Then I take that back then.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, we'll need to look into that.
Is that something that you want to, do you have some suggested language you'd like to use now, or would you like to take it back to the work group and see?
Well, the suggestive language would be that theory of technique is not acceptable either. Okay,
Not
let me,
massage
I'll
therapy
have to
technique.
rethink that.
Okay. But I'm going to mark it, and Lorraine will take it up with the work group again. You will
Okay.
not see it in this round of rules.
Thank you.
If we're good, we're going to keep going. Next big changes in dot 50. Unless I'm missing something, which I'm not. On dot 50, you'll see the changes to the general requirements for massage schools. The work group took out subsection B for cleanup and streamlining the process and objections.
Okay.
B is reworded just to match how we have the rest of the other sections. It says to be eligible for a specific license, so we're just matching language there. 2, we've cleaned up the different subsections and streamlined it just to say lease agreement instead of listing out everything. It'll be on the form that you're required to turn in. It's a process change. Number 3 is a change you will see later. We propose as an advisory board work group to remove the lengthy financial requirements, and we've moved them here into a more simplified version of what is going to be required. It's just streamlining the process. 5 is your House Bill 1865, Section 2 and 3 additions for fingerprints for schools. 6, 7, and 8 are streamlining processes for schools. They were work group discussions as well.
Okay.
A lot of these are work group changes. The next thing that's E is E and F, or House Bill 1865 requirements for reporting student permits and reporting to the department. G to the end of the section is verbatim from statute from House Bill 1865, Sections 2 and 3. All right, dot 51. So what we had here was that we had a massage school locations. We only had information for if you were doing branch locations. We didn't have information if you were changing your location. So now we've made it the two different things. If you were a school and you wanted to get into a bigger building and just changing your location, then that is a separate process than having one school and you needed a branch location. So we're kind of cleaning it up here so that if you were going to do that, you have two different processes to do that so that we can track that easier. And so we've made some cleanup here to see for the additional location. We're just referencing back to dot 50, which are your massage school requirements. Yes, Mr. Ross?
One question on that. We did discuss, and it was brought up in the meeting, that the way it works is every location would have their own license number, and I
Yes.
never did see that come up again. So it is an additional school that I own is under the license number that I have for my primary location.
Right. Currently. That's going to be a process change that we need to work through with
Okay.
the student permit, because as we go through and implement student permits, they'll need to be tied to a number, and they can't,
Yeah.
if we tie it all to your one number, then the other one doesn't have any students.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's something that will become a process change. You will see that
Okay.
as you go through. This is something that I am realizing, again, I apologize. D is the fire codes. That's been moved to another section. So subsection D, which is not currently scratched out, I'm going to remove that because it's been moved to subsection 117.53 already. Cleaning up changes, and then you'll see new subsection G, that is your actual change of location. If you were going to completely shut in one location and move your school to a new location, that's the process that you would follow now. We have some cleanup, and then we get to .52, change of massage school ownership. This was discussed as a part of the work group as well, and the newer additions of the change of ownership rules, or with the input of enforcement, is really helpful. This is also how it looks in some of our other programs, so kind of streamlining how we deal with when there is change of ownership, and when there needs to be a new license, and when there needs to be a new application or new fingerprints done. .53, equipment and facility requirements. This, as you'll see in subsection D, that's where the fire codes went, requirement for all of massage schools, so just putting it in one place as opposed to in multiple places. F is the time clock. It's if you are going to use, you may use a time clock to do student permits, so at least we're adding that in there now as we do hours from 1865 for student permits and reporting to the department.
Ma'am, one question. We discussed A and we discussed E. The term adequate, that is a judgment. I don't know what might work there better, if you could see another language or another word for that. But the inspector coming in, that would be to their judgment. That's not what we're looking for. We can help with the word a little later, or we don't, but I don't know a better word, but that is a judgment that they would make themselves.
I understand. Let me make sure that that's not a parroted term from statute first, and I don't know the answer, but something that I think maybe E&E, as they go through and look through the requirements, is as you keep working, as you work with the other techniques, their theory techniques online courses, maybe something you guys can work on to make it clearer, even bring in field inspections on what that needs to look like.
Okay. Would a field inspector by chance have a definition of what adequate would be for themselves? No, I was asking that. Would it be written out like that? What y'all would determine would be adequate? Because it is a good word.
There are some ratio requirements for your specific rules and how that happens, but again, that's something that perhaps together we can
Okay.
figure out. And if maybe it not even be a rule change that you need, but something out in your guidebook when they do the inspections, that it's laid out for everybody to know.
Thank you.
I moved G over here. It's about display of the license, but it already exists in .50D, new DF. So I will probably remove it in one place so it's not duplicated. H is the new requirement per House Bill 2747 for the posting. It references back to the statute about what's required on the sign. .54 has been renamed for health. It's to health and safety requirements, not just sanitation. It's mostly just cleanup that the work group worked on. For language, do note that L is removed, but it is now number 4. It's not underlined in your work, but it will be. It is new language in there. .55 are school inspections.
Can
Oh.
I rephrase back to that?
Sure.
You on J,
J.
used towels shall be laundried in chlorine bleach. Are we not going to laundry our sheet linen in chlorine bleach as well? That's not detected, so that would. Just a question. I don't know if that's cleanup or whatever, but you're telling us that our towels must be laundried in chlorine bleach. Does that mean we don't have to worry about our linen being
I can add linen if the advisory board would like to add linen.
And then
I can add
linen
I can do
would
the whole
cover,
thing,
linen would
towel
cover
sheets.
all of it.
Linen, okay.
Agreement?
Okay, fine with everyone?
So Jay will now read news linens shall be laundered in chlorinated bleach and hot water. Is that okay for new Jay?
Yes.
Paul Stone, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You go ahead, Matt.
Carol Willis, I was just going to point out it's implied in the H and I, when you talk about clean sheets shall be used on which client's old sheets are to be discarded until they're cleaned. So just an effort not to be redundant.
In the terms of sanitation, based on learning, the bleach is the sanitizer. Unless you can get the water up to past 185 degrees, and most washing machines that are not commercial will not reach that temperature. It's okay, just a point to clarify, Carol.
Mr. Stone?
Paul Stone, I was just going to say, as Carol did, the I and J are kind of correlated. I think Russell used the term used linens, and I think it's the same thing in I as sold sheets. And it does talk about not being used again until properly laundered and disinfected. So maybe there just needs to be the adding of the chlorinated bleach and hot water. But I and J kind of are, you know, what we're talking about here.
I am comfortable with the changes. You just tell me if you want it differently, you want it joined together.
Can you combine, Caroline Garing, can you combine H, I, and J?
I can.
That would be easier.
To just do one about cleaning
Clean
sheets in chlorinated bleach and hot water.
Or one term that
And
would
yes.
encompass all of it.
Okay. I will make that adjustment.
Save us a line on paper.
Save you like 3 lines. Massage salon sections .55. It'll be the, we've added the school owner or designated contact person must be available for inspections. B, just we're ensuring compliance with the chapter. C, per 1865, we need to change here to 36 months. I'm told by Miss Lorraine. And this is the.
Colleen?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say, with regard to A there, I just want to mention that there has been some discussion about the problematical nature of unannounced inspections and the problematic presence of a designated contact person. It's just, there's something, our experience is that that might be impractical, and we wonder if there might be some, I wonder if there might be some modification of that to be discussed at some point.
Inspections are always unannounced?
Not always, no.
Well, we came up in the meeting,
can
and what
clarify-
might have been the issue
I'm sorry.
for us
I'm
is.
sorry, Member Charles Johnson, Assistant General Counsel. If we can, for the record, clarify the speakers, those comments came from whom?
Thank you.
Tanya, sorry. Sorry, Charles.
Russell Rust, our comment was when you guys are going to do an inspection, it might be possible, or it might be at some point with us small businesses, that the designated person might actually be the MTI that's in a class teaching that cannot leave that class. Could also be someone that is designated, but they do massages as well, and they could be. It was just some clarification for us that are nervous about that first school inspection.
So, Ms. Tanya, do you want to come join me? No? Oh.
Thank you.
I had Lorraine Strove, education examination. Sorry. I had mentioned in our work group meeting the fact that we need some designated person available is because of that new student permit requirement when the inspector comes in. I'm sorry. They will need to be able to verify those students that are in attendance and verify that they do have the proper student permit numbers.
You know, most often, when we perform inspections, we, you know, we go ahead and get somebody to sign the inspection form, and it's usually the owner, or it could be a designated person, or their representative. So, you know, if within your business model, it would be a person who would have access to the documents we would need to see and be able to sign the document, you could do something about phrasing it like that. But that's
Russ,
kind
one
of
question.
on you guys.
Well, my issue, and I thought our issue is the designated person. Yes, they could point out, show you where they are, but they may not be able to answer the questions you have.
Right.
They could sign off on something. They could, you know, show you where the documents are.
Sure.
But if you have a internal question, I can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you
it
know,
was just
that,
a
I think
thought.
that's sort of the nature of the inspections, because we are showing up at all of these, you know, inspections unannounced. And sometimes the owner is there, and sometimes when we get there, they'll make a phone call, the owner will come, or whoever the responsible person is, it could be a manager, and then that is the right person to talk to, but sometimes they're
Oh,
not
y'all
available.
would let that happen if y'all showed up and
We would, but I will
you
say, we're
said-
not gonna wait, you know, 6 hours,
Right.
but yes.
Takes me 12 minutes. I can, no, I'm.
Yes, of course. I mean, we'll work with people to make sure that if you want to keep the language the same, then we will, within reason, work to have the right
Thank you.
people there with you. We're not going to just in and out.
Thank you. We just want to make sure you understand the concern.
Oh,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
You're welcome.
Tony Grassi, I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Do y'all do follow-up investigations to get the, what Russ was talking about, getting information that you don't get at the time of the inspection?
Usually an inspection is a snapshot in time, so we get what we get when we're there. We will work within limits again, and they're pretty small limits. If there is some information that you're like, oh, I just need to email it to you right away, you know, I mean, within a couple of days or that sort of thing where we may work with you, but it will still be designated on the inspection report if we, you know, don't have the proper documentation.
Russ, Tony, the inspections we're discussing right now are more about school and school procedures, so it's a little different than an established kind of inspection. Because we could do something that we just may have to correct, and it's okay, because it's just not the way it's supposed to quite be, and we may get a suggestion to correct something, and we get time to correct that, or we have in the past.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Paul Stone, I just had a quick
sir.
question. And this was the previous regulatory agency for massage therapy before TDLR took over. But a representative of your agency coming to either inspect, investigate a complaint, or for whatever purpose, will they wear a badge and
Oh,
immediately
yes.
identify themselves?
Yes, it's a requirement that all of the inspectors wear a badge around their neck and to walk in and ask to talk to the authorized representative and identify who they are and before they start the inspection.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel. If you're good, we're going to keep rolling. All right. Subsection C, Lorraine's informed me that I need to change that to 36 months. Again, this is required reporting and student permit issues from House Bill 1865, Sections 4 and 5. Continuing on the inspection talk, D, it's a little bit of a streamlined cleanup of the struck out language, but it'll be 10 days to correct any violations, and then you need to notify the department within 30. Dot 56 is the financials we discussed earlier. They're now pulled up above, and this section has been removed. Dot 57 for license renewal, I've just added that the new fancy 1865 language for fingerprints. If you haven't been fingerprinted, it'll require you to on a renewal. But if not, you will just keep going. You just need to pass the background.
Russ, quick clarification. The fingerprint is a one-time?
Yes.
As an LMT, as a school, as an establishment, we're going to do one for each?
Right, but the point of it is to be able to check your record. So we will check your record when you renew, and you don't need to submit your fingerprints, but you have to pass that. So if something has
No,
happened.
I mean, for each license, I'm going to have to submit a fingerprint.
Yes.
Okay.
We were given the impression, no. I'm
For the
seeing
person?
wagging heads.
So, Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, and first of all, I apologize
Brian.
for being late.
Yes, Martin.
It's good to see y'all here. Dee Dee, why don't you come up to the table and walk him through how the fingerprint process will go down?
Dee Dee will tell you the answer to that.
Right.
I don't know.
Can I make a, Paul Stone, I just wanted to make a quick clarification on what I said. It's not important to anybody but myself. I just got to thinking about it. We had a complaint filed against us a number of years ago. A Department of State Health Services had an investigator who came. It was not Mr. Gonzalez, because people, I was looking back at him and I was thinking, he's thinking I'm saying he didn't identify himself. He's going to get me, but he's always been professional, and we've always had a great working relationship with him. This was another person who's not Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Stone, don't worry. That was one of our interview questions, and had he answered it wrong, he wouldn't be back there, so you're good.
So Dee Dee McEachern, I'm Director of Licensing. One fingerprint for the whole massage program will work for you. You won't have to get fingerprinted each and every time. If, however, you choose to become a speech pathologist some point down the road, another fingerprint will be required for that.
Correct.
The massage program, one will cover the whole thing.
Because some of us have 4 licenses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dee Dee, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dot 58, changing up, just making it a designated contact person. Dot 59, cleanup of massage school language. Your big changes, I did some drafting error here, so I'll fix the drafting error, but the biggest change here, it's a work group change, is removing the caps on number of hours that can be taught by a school and for internships. Dot 60, as we discussed earlier, removing the advanced coursework requirements and checks the department do. Dot 61, admissions and requirements. Biggest change here is to D. It's an internal process that we're trying to figure out as we review transcripts, and so hopefully this language will help us streamline our process better. Dot 62. Change here is in number 16. It's removing the 5-year sit-out per 1865, Section 1. You also have additional cleanup in the rest of the section from the work group. And then you have the addition of new subsection F and new subsection G, again, because of student permit requirements and reports that are necessary to the department, laying out those processes. Next section is dot 64, transcripts and records. We're streamlining that process a little bit because of the way we now have the student permit and the reporting to the department there. So you'll also see there won't be a need for a registry anymore. That information will come in because of your student permits and already be in the system as you're reporting the hours. Again, all of those are because of 1865, sections 4 and 5. Dot 65, it's literally just a cleanup. All of those things are just listed out differently now instead of splitting out grievance. It's just one list of the whole, everything that you're required to do for your conduct and grievance policy. Dot 66 has to do with tuition fees, charges when it comes to refunds, streamlining the process to match kind of our understanding of unused tuition fees, charges, so that we have the correct terminologies and it's streamlined throughout the program. No change to the actual numbers of any things or percentage of things, just how we reference them.
Paul Stone.
Yes, sir.
We had a unique circumstance in our school that relates to 11766A, numeral 1. If a student enrolls after the class is started, but then withdraws within 72 hours of signing that contract, I know this is might require some interpretation from your legal staff, but, and I know it's not really addressed there, maybe it's implied that they would have that same opportunity available to them, but once a class is started, I think it's a different animal than if they signed up 2 months before class starts and then they decide within 72 hours. Certainly they get their any monies paid back and refunded under that scenario. But what if the class has already started and they sign up late, as we are allowed to sign up students?
You see, I look at Ian.
Paul, Russ, did they physically attend a class?
They did. I think
Okay,
they attended.
physically attended a class, that is null and void. This is prior to a student attending class. Once they sign the contract, if they attend class, they accumulated hours that can be charged for, so it is not due a refund.
Paul, does your enrollment policy address the fact as to when a student must sign to start class?
It
In
does
other
not. It does
words,
not.
So you're enrolling a student after a class has already started?
I can tell I'm getting in trouble here.
So would you like to discuss this with Lorraine?
They are, as required, that they are making up the time in concert with their instructor that they've missed, and just over a period of time. But we are enrolling students probably in the first week. Obviously, they can't miss more than 15% of the class, and they never miss that much. And I don't know exactly how far we go.
Okay.
Because my wife manages the classroom. We certainly are enrolling students past the start date, and we don't have direct specific language as to when we cut off that enrollment for a class.
And I'll just add this, when you look at section A versus B, the distinction is between a full refund and a partial refund. So the timing of it really is dictated on, if you want to get a full refund, these things are canceled within 72 hours of the contract being signed. When you get to B, you're looking at a student who may have already been present, so that's the unused portion of it. So the first one is just, can they get a full refund? Here are the cases where they can. That makes a little bit.
They accumulated hours.
Yeah.
So I'm charging them for the hours that they actually did.
You're
I'll
going
give them
under
a
Section B
refund.
now.
I'll give them a refund on unused
Exactly.
tuition.
And that's a B, but A is a full refund, saying that here are the scenarios in which a full refund can kick in.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay.
Jerry, why don't you stay close?
Jerry, did you have a comment?
We love you.
You're
man.
hovering there.
Ah.
Yeah, I know. I'll stop myself. Jerry Gonzalez. In the past, there was a portion of the rule that said you can enroll students up to 10% before 10% of the program had been taught. So that was what most training programs were using at the time. So there wasn't necessarily you have to sign up 2 weeks before my class starts or 3 days. You were allowed to be able to enroll someone at that point. But it was already taken care of. So it's not going to make a difference now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, proceed.
I have a question.
Oh,
Caroline Guerin, we can still enroll them, right? Up to 50 hours into the program? Okay. Thank you.
Just be sure that you
In my
have that
handbook?
language in your enrollment contract addressing what those requirements look like. Okay.
thank you.
I'm going to move on to dot 67 unless there are other questions. So the changes to dot 67 about student progress requirements, again, this is the reason for the changes now that we will have reporting of student hours per student permits here, so we've made these adjustments to deal with the change of now having that information come directly to TDLR. And so that's the new language, and then the old language and old process has been removed.
Russ, one question. Previously, we would do a progress report that was mandated for us to do at 125 hours in each program. Am I looking at this as eliminating that? We were required to do progress reports. Let's say it's a 500-hour program. That puts it at 125 hours. We would have to do a progress report that would give them the number of hours attended, number of hours missed. It did had some satisfactories and things on there as well. Is that eliminating the okay. I can ask very good questions, but my wife's questions are a lot better than mine, okay?
Carol Willis, under C, there's an extra word in the first sentence. It says massage school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colleen, I just want to say that we've been going for about, David Lauderstein, going for about an hour and a half. I'm wondering if people could use just a 5-minute break at a point where you feel like we could take just a brief 5-minute break.
Oh, you can do it now. That's fine.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
7 minutes designated. This is the Russell Russ Continuum. Thank you.
unless we had any previous questions or issues before that. Mr. Russ?
Mr. Rust here. You did take out the 15% of the total clock hours. I know we talked about this. Part of the 15% was so that,
Wasn't even there yet.
I know you wouldn't. This does mean that we can set our own policy for attendance.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Streamlines the processes for schools. We removed the 15% portion for absences. And that, well, I'm gonna keep moving to .80. .80, we get into the massage establishment applications. Again, on number 3, you'll see House Bill 1865, changes for fingerprints, and that takes you to the end of that section. It's
Colleen?
again, yes, sir.
This is Brian Francis. Can we go back just 1 second in .68? I just want for the record to show that Mr. Stone has not been breaking the law or the rules. If you look at letter G, it allows for a student to be enrolled after 10% of the program, or up to 10% of the program being taught. So you're good, Mr. Stone. We're going to call off the FBI that's just standing outside the door. You're good to go. Colleen, please carry on.
Colleen, just one question since he brought us back there. You have E, the attendance policy shall require termination of a student who has accumulated absences. Were you scratched out 1? Is that supposed to be 1 continuous sentence now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Paul Stone, and just very quickly, I just want to be sure I'm clear on this, especially for the record as well. We now can allow a person to accumulate as many absences as we deem appropriate by our school policy, and they can continue in the program outside of 10 consecutive missed days.
Your policy. We're proposing that, not going forward that all of a sudden it becomes thing,
Not
but it would
adopted
be a
yet.
proposal.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
To be clarified, these are all proposed rules.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And technically, Brian France speaking, they're before they become proposed rules.
Right,
Until you
because they're not
actually
proposed
say,
yet.
we
They're
want to
proposed
propose them. So
at the end of this. .80, again, House Bill 1865, these are your fingerprint requirements for massage establishments from the statute. .82, massage establishments general requirements. The change is going to be at the addition of J and K at the end. J is from House Bill 2747, Section 3, the posting of the human trafficking sign. It references 455.207. And then K is the residing, and that is taken from statute as well. House Bill 2747, and that's Section 1 of that bill. Change to .90 is the addition of U. That should look familiar. That's what we discussed in the language that we decided on in December of 2018 for draping. We made a corresponding change to the in .91 to the consultation documents. Again, that is from our last advisory board meeting. Next, changes to .93, advertising, removing the prohibition for a testimonial as per 2 Office of the Attorney General opinions and a public comment. The next change you'll see is in .100 to the
Russell Rust here, sorry, going back to 117.83, do you not think we need to change that language there on the chlorinated bleach as well? I know that wasn't part, but if we're gonna do it for the school, should not the establishment, since those kind of line up the same, be also implemented for a massage establishment in the same language?
Yes. And you kind of beat me to it. I had a discussion with our Assistant General Counsel, Charles Johnson, in the back, and he's done a little bit of looking. I think the terminology that we will see will be sheets and towels. And when Charles was looking up the term linens, linens does not include towels, so I cannot use the term just exclusively because it would include towels. So it'll when I make that change, and we'll go over it again, it'll be sheets and towels, and then we'll do the has to be clean and chlorinated bleach. When I change those, I'll change them in both.
Colleen, should be
Yes, sir.
probably sheets, linen, and towels, because people may use pillowcases, et cetera, so it's not just sheets in the narrow sense.
We also have what we call bolster covers. I mean, there's
Face
face
cradle
cradle covers, so there's other,
Other linen.
Other types of linens.
Yeah, yeah.
are all linens used.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, rule language is generally specific, and so if you know what those items are, it'd be better to list those in the rule. But to say linen, you can use it generically. But the law says that unless the term is defined, then it has its usual and customary meaning. And usually customary meaning for linen does not include all those other things. The definition of linen would include sheets, but not towels. It would include none of the other things that you wanted to include. So
How
it'd be-
about anything a customer may touch?
well, that could include the doorknob. But my point being is that while this is not my program specifically, just generally speaking, rule interpretation, if you want to include those specific things, then it'd be better to say them rather than to imply them through a generic term.
So what I'm going to make a suggestion is, one, I can make the chlorinated bleach and water kind of the changes that we already have, and perhaps taking the larger issue of sheets, towels, linens, and such back to your work group before I take it too far out of what was required. Yes.
Okay,
Ms.
one.
Okay, Caroline Guerin, in subchapter A, general provisions, 117.2 definitions, couldn't we put in there what linens would entail?
Yeah.
Bolster cover, face cradle cover?
Yes, ma'am. And that's my point.
Pillowcases? Yes.
It'd be better to, Charles Johnson, Assistant General Counsel, it'd be
Fine.
better to include a definition of what it includes rather than use the usual and customary, because otherwise we'll revert to Webster, and Webster will exclude all linen, anything except sheets.
It's good.
Excellent, thank you.
Moving forward with defining linens in the definition and then using it is what I'm going to do. Take back what I just said.
And Russ, one other point to that, are these not rules that we're needing to get published? Because my understanding was we were not gonna have another work group session this year.
You may, but you won't. You would not see these again in a work group. So we would work through these, and the next step for these would be to be published in the Texas
Oh,
Register.
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
For comment.
We'll revisit that definition in just 1 second. I'm going to get through the rest of this, and then we'll go through that. We did .90, .91, I apologize. So the next section is .100 is the fees. Student permit fee will be $25. Again, the reason for that is the creation of the student permit per Section 4 of 1865, House Bill 1865, and that's on par with our other student permits. That takes us to the end, and we're done.
And you didn't comment on 11791, did you?
Yeah. The
Genitalia.
consultation document?
Draping.
Draping is you.
Oh, specifically, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
draping was you, consultation document
Okay.
was, changes were made
No
because of
problem,
that.
just making sure.
She touched on that draping. The comments that we've included in here are the ones that you guys had decided on to make a decision on back in December. Brian Francis.
Paul Stone, I just had one quick question as far as the implementation date of the student permit fee of $25, whatever that date may eventually be. Classes beginning, students who begin a class at a date before that effective date, will they be grandfathered in, or will they in midstream in a course be required to have a student permit?
It would be midstream in the course, because that student permit is going to accrue and attach to anyone who's enrolled in school at the time that the rules are effective. So whether they started 3 days before or 30 days before, we're going to need to know who they are at that given time.
Russ, to that point, does that mean we'd need to backdate their accumulated hours?
No.
Because we're not going to be enrolling those hours
Our
on
team's going to take care of that transition point for the
Okay,
schools.
thank you.
Thank you.
And
And they're going to educate us as well.
Oh, man,
Oh,
they
yes.
love this. They love this stuff.
And just so you know, Mr. Stone, per the statute, the requirement, while we are working on the rules now, and it is technically effective come September 1, the requirement for a student to have a student permit is not until June 1 of 2020. So that gives us a lot of time to work through the process and get everybody on the same page and help everybody come up to speed.
So in the case of Stone School of Massage, and probably some of the other massage school owners here and certainly in the state, many of us start classes in January, and if it's a full-time class, they're going to be over about June, but not by June 1st. So will we have the ability to integrate into the system prior to that in any form to where we're not playing all this catch-up and data entry and jump through all these hoops?
If you'll remember in our work group meeting, we discussed that training and instructions. That's where I'm going to provide you all those details of every scenario you could think of.
Russ, you mean that meeting
Thank you.
before lunch today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Colleen? Any more information you'd like us to have?
I do, if you guys will just stick with me for just
Sure.
one more second. In addition to the kind of clerical changes, excess words, my poor drafting skills, changes that will be made, I'm going to make 2 additional changes that weren't in your rule packet, which is to .54 H, I, and J, and .83 H, I, and J, and .2 the definitions. So I will be working on adding a definition for linen, and then I will incorporate that term and kind of clean up those 3 subsections into, it's got to be clean, instead of saying it 3 times. If that is something that is okay with the advisory boards, with the exception of what I just laid out in those 3 sections for linen discussion, clerical changes, the numbers, my poor drafting, excess words, then the next step would be a recommendation once our fiscal review has been completed for publication in the Texas Register.
And
Russell Rust, I make a motion to accept the
rule
proposed
second
rules
with the changes.
with the changes.
Caroline Guerin, I'll second it.
all right. All approving that?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very, very much for your hard work.
Great job, team.
See, that's what I said, I'm not thinking of everything.
So let me ask, for our next board meeting, asking the board, are there any recommendations for agenda items for our next board meeting? If so, we can take those and then we can discuss the date and time for the next one.
Mr. Chairman, Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel, at your next board meeting will probably be at the end of this public comment period, so one of your agenda items will be to go over the public comments. That will be one of them.
Go over the public comments. Thank you. Yeah. And any other recommendations? Okay. Therefore, it'd be time to discuss, if we can, future date for the next Massage Therapy Board meeting.
Mary, I
Proposals?
I believe Mary has that information for us.
We do the week of November 11th, which is Veterans Day, so that's a holiday. But that week will fall into our bill implementation timeline, which will get that public comment, and time to review any public comment and everything else we need to do internally. So, Anna, what days do we have free? Tuesday through Friday. That's the 12th through the 15th. We do have availability.
12th through the 15th of November this year.
Yes.
Okay, and any one of those is good for you all?
12th or the
great for me.
14th.
12th or the 14th are
For
both
me.
good?
Yes, 12th is good
How
for me.
about you
I
other?
prefer the 12th.
And y'all will be
Prefer
serving
the
Thanksgiving early, right?
Yeah.
David, can we do
November-
the 12th?
Mr. Russ, I
November
did,
12th seems to be the preferred date, which is, works
1
fine for
p.m.
me as well. Shall we say so?
Yes.
Okay, let's see, November 12th, that's a Tuesday. Thank
Colleen
you.
Tran, Assistant General Counsel. I hear Mr. Russ makes a mean brisket, so I think we should make him bring us food.
They don't allow food on the plane any longer.
Oh, yeah, that's an excuse. You can pick it
Mary
up on your
Winston
way.
Taylor, do we still want the same time as 1 o'clock good?
1
Yes,
o'clock is
please.
good. Yeah. All right. If there is no further business, I'd like to entertain the motion to adjourn.
I make that motion. Paul Stone.
I'll second that.
Carolyn Guerin seconds it. Consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, members of TDLR and the board.